Now we'll start our official meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting of July 17th, the Clermont County Board of Commissioners duly open. And we'll proceed with the agenda as prepared. Item number B, approval of regular session minutes. Board, I know that you have had a draft copy of the minutes from July 10th, 2019, and had an opportunity to review them and make any suggested changes that you would like. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from July 10th, 2019?
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and received a second. Any conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Humphrey.
Aye.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Item number C, I understand we have a presentation here concerning the issuance of a tax-exempt revenue bond for the benefit of AlcoreSenior LLC to finance the construction, equipping, and startup for retirement community proposed to be located here in Clermont County. Benjamin Briers is here with Alcore and Michael Dean from Dinsmore and Shoals. Thanks for coming today, and I'll let you have the podium for your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioners, for making time for us this morning. My name is Michael Dean. I'm with the law firm of Dinsmore and Shoal in Cincinnati, Ohio. We are representing as a firm AlcoreSenior LLC, which is a provider of assisted and independent living services for retirement communities in Ohio and elsewhere. Ben Byers, as Commissioner Painter said, and he runs the place, and he's going to do a presentation here. The matter here for discussion is the possible issuance of tax-exempt revenue bonds for the benefit of AlcoreSenior, issued in the name of the county, and then proceeds would be loaned to Alcore to construct this new facility. As I said, we're bond counsel, so we will. I will be here to answer legal questions, bond structuring questions, if there are any at this time. Questions about the project will be directed towards Ben and his other associate here as well. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Ben.
I'm not sure I know how to run this. So
On,
Right here.
on your
Yes.
podium.
Oh, okay, great. Just left back. So I'm with AlcoreSenior. My name's Ben Byers. We are a company that develops. Let's see. There it is. There. We develop senior housing and care facilities in smaller towns. We target middle American values, middle income people. I have developed in excess of 15 of these in Ohio and surrounding states. We create a great neighbor in that we don't create traffic. We're not putting children in schools. We don't have any emissions. And most of these folks are people that already live in your town, and you're taking care of them anyways, or your county. So I'm not doing something right here.
You just scroll down.
Scroll down with the button?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
All right. So as I said, we kind of target middle market, middle American, and it's what's becoming in our industry discussed as the forgotten middle market. And these are people very similar to my parents who have modest retirement incomes, maybe $2,000, $3,000 a month, own a home, have some assets of a few $100,000. And what's happened around the country is that there are a lot of products that are developed for wealthy people that are a little more high-end. You see them in Cincinnati and all over the place. And then there may be Medicaid for people in nursing homes. But these people that have these income brackets get caught in the middle. And not only is there not any help for them, there's not a lot of product that's built for that type of what I call the Buick driver. So that's kind of what we target. This is becoming a bigger and bigger concern in our industry, as it's estimated now that potentially 10 years from now, 60% of the retirees won't be able to afford the care of the projects that are being built today. So we've always tried to focus on these income brackets, and you can kind of see here, these are just normal folks that you know that have a farm, or they live here in town, or they owned a hardware store, or they were a biology teacher. You know, current assisted living costs are easily in excess of $5,000. So it gets to the point that if you study this chart, you'll see that if you can get below $50,000 a year in costs, or $40,000 a year in costs, there's an enormous amount of people that fall into needing this. So, you know, our typical customer would be 80 plus, generally a female, but not always. You know, income of $2,000 to $3,000, maybe $175,000 in assets. They obviously want to stay at home as long as they can, and they don't come to this type of living, you know, until they need help. And so we are proposing or studying the site here to build some independent living, about 50 units, that would be more hospitality services, lower rents, so on and so forth, and assisted living gets a little more expensive as they add nursing care to the component. This product also works well. There's a VA program that can offset about $1,700 of that to certain veterans, and most of them qualify. This is something I put together when I talk to people. You know, these are kind of the things that our customers would have been exposed to or interested in. You know, they're just average middle American folks, and we think there's a big market for that, and well, we know there is. We've built a number of them. They've always been successful. This is a project that we did 3 of these up the western side of the state in the last 5 years. Oregon, Ohio, by Toledo, which is a suburb, Huber, and Sydney. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what these look like. You'll notice, for example, this is a private dining room. You don't see a lot of crown molding and expensive millwork and so on and so forth, but it's nicely done with wallpaper, and you know, it's, like I said, a good Chevy Buick product. This is a lounge in one of our typical facilities. This was another area. These have apartments off of them that had skylights. This is a typical inside of one of the apartments. You kind of see the finishes. So, and people can decorate them as they wish. We have been studying Batavia for a while. We had a couple sites that we looked at. We've kind of settled on this 24-acre piece here at State Route 32 and Harold Road. We've liked the location, proximity to the hospital. We've talked to the hospital. They're very supportive of the project, and you know, feel the need to have places to help people get discharged to that maybe can't go home. We will ultimately plan this out with some master planning, you know, for the remainder of the site, but what we're discussing today is this first phase of the project, which we would do a lot split and take off the front of this and put this building on it. Sorry, I'm touchy on this. I'm not trying to drive everybody nuts. So, as I said, the one side, the long wing towards 32, would be about 50 units of independent living. These are people that are mobile. They can respond to an emergency. Maybe they can't live at home. Maybe they don't drive anymore because of macular degeneration. But they're reasonably active folks, and they can live in an apartment building with an interior corridor where they can move around in the winter if there's snow on the ground and so on and so forth. And we can bring supportive services to them, but we wouldn't be doing things like medication administration or incontinence care or you know, serious health care on this side of the building. Then the other side of the building would be assisted living, which in Ohio is very broad and helps people stay out of nursing homes, actually, because you can bring in a lot of services from the hospital, home health, hospice. We would staff nurses 24 hours a day, 3 meals, activities, transportation. They can get up to 120 days of skilled nursing in this facility, so that's 4 months a year, which is quite a bit for a normally aging person who doesn't have, you know, some medical catastrophe. So they'll be frail. A fair amount of them will need medication administration. We'll have Wander Guard on the building so that people that have some confusion, but I wouldn't say it's not going to be especially Alzheimer's facility. But there's a lot of people like me that can't remember if I took my pills in the morning when I shave. So somebody could remind me, and so on and so forth. Average age probably of entry is between 80 and 85. They're going to live here 2 or 3 years usually, sometimes longer, but it's about 3 years. And we're trying to keep the base rates down in those $2,500 to $3,000 ranges. We create about 50 to 70 full-time jobs, close to a $2 million payroll. Our average wages are about $35,000 to $40,000. This will be approximately a 80,000 square foot building. Right now, all these numbers could change a little bit. We're still doing part of why we're here today is to get this induced so that we can really continue on with the feasibility of exactly how it ends up. So there might be some light changes, but right now this is what we're planning on. These are some advertisements from our past projects that I threw in here, just to, this is a typical daughter who's trying to deal with how we help mom and dad. And this was another marketing piece that I put together years ago, but you kind of compare this to, in this example, what you pay at a Holiday Inn where you don't get meals, you don't get nurses, you don't get transportation, versus what it costs to be in a nursing home. Or then people obviously would like to stay at home. They try to have that care delivered at home. It gets crushingly expensive very fast. So we're trying to stay right in the middle of all these things so that we offer a great opportunity and alternative to people who have income but modest income. So that's the end of my presentation. If anybody has questions, I'll try to answer.
Two questions. One is this facility, residents, can they bring some of their own furniture? And as far as decorating, that's an okay thing. And rehabilitation services, do you foresee rehabilitation where people come to rehabilitate and then stay?
We would see that happening probably in conjunction with the hospital.
Okay.
Where they would bring their home health care agency in with people that might have hips, knees, strokes, and they maybe don't want to go back on the farm, or they can't for a while. Maybe they have used up their Medicaid days in the hospital, but they could come here and the hospital then could deliver those services, which we're not licensed to do. So we'll make spaces available for those things to happen, but we hope to jointly do a number of things with the hospital.
And then just one more, transportation services, have you thought any of that through? Okay.
And take them to the doctor, I'm sure we'll be back to the hospital all the time. But yes, it's all built into the program.
Okay. Anything else, board? Michael, could you go over the bond issue and what the request is?
Sure. So the issue of bonds will be done under what's called a trust indenture, a bond indenture that the county will be a party to with a bond trustee. I'm not sure who that is at the moment. It's a banking association. The proceeds from those bonds would then be loaned to AlcoreSenior Life or Senior LLC under a loan agreement. And then the repayment obligation would follow from that loan agreement. And also, we haven't gotten this far into the structure, but I assume there's master trust indenture notes that secure the obligations under the loan agreement. That's typical in this type of transaction. And that's a parity pledge across all of their gross revenues. So that would encompass all the gross revenues that are produced by all of their facilities. That's sort of the general structure of the bonds. I don't know if they're expected to be rated yet.
No.
This transaction is being largely run out of our Columbus office. But do you know if they're private, public?
Don't know.
Okay, so we're early on in the structuring process.
Okay.
But could be publicly offered, could be privately purchased by a bank or another investment institution.
Okay. And what do you expect to be forthcoming to the board for consideration when those details are worked out?
Sure. Well, we would first hope to have an inducement resolution adopted or passed next week at the 24th meeting.
Okay.
And that would authorize the execution of an inducement agreement, which is essentially an agreement that says the county agrees to issue bonds assuming all these other conditions are met by Alcor. And that would come in the future. I think the timeline they'd like to get started and issue bonds is this fall. I don't think we have an exact timeline yet, but at that point there would be a authorizing resolution for the bonds for the commissioners to consider. And that would authorize, among other things, execution of the trust agreement, execution of the loan agreement, some tax documents for the tax-exempt status of all of this. And that's really it. There's not a lot of involvement. The loan agreement, the payments that are coming through there won't come to the county. They won't need to be processed and forwarded on to anybody else. They'll come straight from Alcor to the bond trustee.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
But prior to the actual resolution is a public hearing required by the TEFRA Act.
Correct.
Right.
Correct,
So
yeah.
all of that will come prior to that
Right.
for public input and comment relative thereto?
Correct, yeah. Federal law requires us to have a public hearing no later than 7 days before, or a public hearing that's noticed no later than 7 days before the hearing in a publication of general circulation in the county. So we will take care of that publication. We'll make sure that it fits the 7-day requirement. And that public hearing will likely be held in conjunction with the authorizing resolution.
Okay.
What,
Go ahead.
what amount are we thinking?
I think 22 as a not to exceed amount right now.
22
22 million, sorry, yeah.
Okay. And does that, Suki, does that affect our debt limit, or Mary?
No, not at all.
There will
Okay.
be no general obligation pledge.
Okay.
There'll be full indemnity to the county from Alcor.
Okay.
Right, it won't affect your bank qualification for any general obligation issues.
Industrial development revenue bonds we've done for others.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on. I understand we have a presentation for Streamside subdivision. Dennis Nichols, the administrator of the Village of Batavia. Dennis, the podium is yours. Do you want to introduce who else is here with you today?
With me here today is Mayor John Theba, Hal Silverman of Hal Homes, Richard Spoor of Keating Muthing, and Tim Burgoyne, Chief Operating Officer for Hal Homes. The village has been working with Hal Homes for more than 5 years on the development known as Streamside. It's more than 500 dwelling units, 300 apartments, 250 or so single-family properties, and has offered a community reinvestment area tax abatement. As we approach the completion of everything, we found that the county auditor takes a different view of an existing TIF, a tax increment financing district. The county initiated a TIF on this property, I believe, in 2005. It's a 30-year TIF, I believe, and they are now on the same property. Although the CRA takes precedence over the TIF, the auditor's office interprets the rule, or did to us, that the TIF would be held in abeyance and then be deferred until the end of the CRA. I don't agree with that interpretation, nor does our council. But rather than challenge that, we would request that the county commissioners remove the TIF and let us proceed with the CRA unimpeded. Otherwise, essentially, Streamside does not get built. I was told that the county was concerned about the details of the CRA and why the CRA trumps the TIF. I'm going to ask Mr. Spoor to talk about that. Todd Cooper, our bond counsel, was in New York today and was unable to be here. But I'm content to have our counterparty in this make the representation. The framework is that the state law allows a 15% abatement of 100% of the increased value for residential properties. The developer has agreed to pay the village 50% of what the amount of the taxes would have been, and the village will use that money to pay for improvements in the immediate area, and it will go into the general fund. It's not earmarked to that area, but it will take care of the needs of the for transportation and general services. The village has already begun the process of highway improvements on Route 32. We developed a plan for the interchanges of Route 32 with Bower Road and with Harrell Road. We used WSP for our engineers on that. The state stepped in, as I think probably you all know, and picked up the Bower Road interchange and will assume 100% of the cost of that. We're pursuing the Harrell Road request. We made one presentation to the state Ohio Department of Transportation for for safety funds. We did not rank high enough on their schedule this year to be approved, but we will renew that application. And if that application doesn't go through, we'll find another route of financing. The village will have the financing available to do that. The pilot coming from the development by itself would be sufficient for that. The details. The village, the effect on the county, what effect this would have. The first effect on the county would be that it lifts the burden of the county for maintaining and improving State Route 32 and the interchanges. The Transportation Improvement District and the county engineer had made plans for doing this. I discussed this with the previous county engineer going back over several years, and he supported our proposal on the basis that the existing TIF was producing no revenue, and that the plan as originally conceived in 2005 and subsequently is not going to be built. It's neither necessary nor desirable at this point, I think. There's a 4,000-foot access road that's supposed to be built. That, I think, no one really is proposing to do that right now. As matters stand right now, the county is receiving no funds. Well, you're receiving the tax funds from the property as current agricultural use valuation. Once it's subdivided, you will begin receiving the tax valuation on the building lots. That will go to the general taxes, and the building lots will be about 20% of the valuation. So it's not fair to say that there would be no additional tax revenue. The abated property will come back on the tax rolls at full value in 15 years. There are impacts for the county water and sewer districts. This is in the county sewer district and the county water system. And that's pretty much it. The main point of the whole thing, however, is that it will produce more than 500 new dwelling units, boosting the economy of the village and of the county. I think a great plus. We're really pleased to work with Hal Holmes on the project and hope to see it come to completion quickly. The reason for any urgency on this, and the reason I said to Mr. Painter, I hope we can lift the TIF immediately, is because we need to get get within the current building, the construction season, and the financing is coming to a head. Mr. Spoor, would you like to take my place at this podium and give more detail? If anyone has questions of me right now, I'll be here. But if you have questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
How many dwellings did you say?
The tentative plan is 565. I understand that they will probably reduce the total number by a few, but that the approved planned unit development is 565.
On how many acres?
145.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Dick Spoor. I'm with the law firm of Keating, Muthing, and Kleekamp in Cincinnati. We represent Al Holmes. I've had the honor of appearing before your board for how long, Judy? We won't go into that, but it's been decades. But it's good to be here once again. What you'll hear from us today somewhat will overlap, but I think that will be useful not only for the point of emphasis, but there's slightly different nuances to each aspect. I'm going to focus on some of the legal issues, and I did want to point out one other impact on the county. There will be sales tax on the building materials, and the construction costs will probably be in the I don't know, how would you estimate the total construction costs for building materials?
For everything would be 70, 75 million.
So $75 million of construction cost. And normally half of those costs are building materials. The other is labor and overhead. So that's an addition. And again, as you'll hear from Hal, there will be not only significant revenues added to the sewer and water operations, but also the tap-in fees for this many units will be significant. But getting to the specifics of the legal aspects, as Dennis pointed out, the existing TIF actually went into effect in '06 and for those of you who remember, the state law changed radically at the end of '06, which effectively put an end to doing any kind of TIF for residential improvements, or so-called RIDs, residential improvement districts. So all through the state, there was a rush, if you will, to beat the deadline. So Clermont County, which is perfectly legitimate, Clermont County, along with many other counties and townships, imposed these TIFs to capture the improvement values. So this wasn't just specific. Now the TIF in this case is specific to our project, but I want to point out that it was a county-wide effort in a lot of other areas. In the original TIF, the consideration, if you will, which is a legal term for a contract, what do you get for what you give, mentioned a 4,000-foot roadway, which is, Dennis pointed out, and Hal will supplement, is no longer part of the matrix. It's not required, and it would be probably not a good idea to build it at this point in time. In early 2007, remember I mentioned that the rush was the end of 2006, the county filed there was an agreement, a development agreement between the county and Hal Holmes. The county filed that in the records of the recorder's office. So it is in the chain of title, which is an issue because you heard the term cloud on title. A cloud on title is just that. It's not specific. You don't know exactly. It's sort of like there's a problem, but we don't know what it is, but we need to get it resolved. Because as Hal will point out, we're dealing with a number of individual homeowners, and you all have bought houses. When you go to the closing table and they bring up the title report, somebody says, well, what's this? And it's hard to explain. So the best thing is, because there'll be hundreds of these closings, is to clear the title now, rather than come back with each transaction to request it. It's probably better, more than probably, it's definitely better to clean it up at one point. The proposed resolution, which I think Todd Cooper had prepared and sent to Alan earlier, does three things. And again, it's not before you today. We hope it will be, but at least soon, if not today. But I thought I'd just mention what it does. It rescinds the 2006 TIF. It allows for the removal of the cloud of title, that is, the removal of the development agreement from the record, and also reverses the exemption application. In addition, pardon me again, I don't want to get too technical, but in addition to the filing of the development agreement, there's also what's called a DTE Form 24. DTE stands for Department of Tax Equalization. Form 24 is a form where you apply for exemption from taxes, whether it's CRA, TIF, or the exemption you filed for this building when you built it. That was filed by the county, and that would also be removed from the record as well under the resolution we're talking about. Now, having said that, under the state statutes, a CRA, or Community Reinvestment Area exemption, will take precedence over the other exemptions such as TIF in that sequence. But again, rather than getting into a legal argument with you folks or more particularly with folks down the road, whether it's you all or us, it's better to resolve that issue now the way the state statute works.
Just for clarity, is there, and I've just heard that there is another TIF. Is there a TIF also in there from Batavia Township? Is that correct?
Batavia Township adopted a TIF in 2013. That was a different type of TIF. It did not cover residential improvements. It covered commercial and industrial. So it was passed, but it really is like a tree falling in the woods without making a noise, because that's not what's being developed here. It would not capture any of those.
In the timeline of all these, how does the original TIF, how does all that fit in together to where the property was, in somewhere in there was an annexation, obviously somewhere in there was a CRA created. What's the precedence of all those actions?
Well, the annexation, what that means is the CRA then would have to be done by the village instead of by the county.
Okay.
So once it goes into the village, in other words, if they're existing TIFs, they still attach to the property. So those would need to be resolved. We're not asking the township to do anything because, number one, nothing was filed. So there's nothing in the record. And it doesn't affect the development that we're contemplating. So it is not an issue for us, but it's a good question. I think we've gone into the details of the CRA. We've discussed that it's part of a financing plan. Let me just mention one other detail that I think is important. The village is going to issue roughly $3 million worth of bonds to do all the public infrastructure improvements that we need. So it will be on the books of the village. The bonds will be paid for by special assessments. So what we've heard so far is that there's a CRA to reduce the taxes on the individual homeowner. There's a payment in lieu of tax, which effectively reduces that incentive. But in addition, the homeowners will be assessed on their property to pay for all of these improvements. So the homeowner may benefit from the CRA and reduction, but it creeps back up with the payment in lieu of tax and the special assessments. So without that matrix in place, the homeowners would end up paying full taxes, full assessments, and payments in lieu of taxes. It would, and again, Hal will get into that in the numbers, but it would just make it very burdensome. So that, I wanted to complete the picture because the village is going to be paying for all of these improvements with special assessments. And the village is also taking the risk and backing the bonds with their general income taxes. So there's no risk to the county in any of these undertakings. But that's about it. I think if you have any, I didn't want to get too much into the legal weeds, but I think they're important as you proceed. But I'll be glad to answer questions now or as we get on in the presentation.
Years in the special assessment.
Special assessments, I think we're talking 25 years for special assessments? Yes, 25 years.
CRAs, and how does it affect the school districts?
The school district gets full taxes on the land. The CRA only abates the building improvements on land. So the schools will increase from probably almost nothing to 20% of the value, as Dennis pointed out. So there will be increased receipts to the school. As soon as these are platted, they come out of CAUV and go into that. During the 15-year period, the schools will not get any tax receipts on the improvements, but starting in year 16, they will get the full complement of property taxes, as will all the other taxing districts.
In that time frame is what keeps the school, I shouldn't say keeps the school, the 15-year doesn't require the school to participate prior to the placement of that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. If it were longer than 15 years, the school would have to sign off and participate in that abatement.
Well, not exactly, just to be technical.
Good.
That would be true if it were a TIF. A TIF can go 30 years. So you do need a school agreement on that. Because the CRA only goes 15 years, it automatically ends.
Mhm.
So at the end of that, it's just as if it had never been.
Yep.
I mean, its net effect is the same, but it's a different approach.
Okay. Any other questions, board?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd not like to turn it over to Hal Silverman. He's the main guy here, so.
15 years, no money coming in. Yeah.
Morning, Mr. Silverman.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good. My name's Hal Silverman, and I'm the president and owner of Hal Homes, Inc. Our company has been a builder and developer in the greater Cincinnati area for 42 years. We were the developer of the 2012 Homerama show, which occurred at Willows Bend, which I went back and it was actually the 50th anniversary of the show, and I went back to look at all the shows, and this was the only one that was actually in Clermont County that I could figure out. So I was very happy and proud that we were able to bring that show to Clermont County. One other thing you probably don't know about me, I'm a CPA by trade, and actually worked with a large CPA firm and was director of finance at Kings Island, which was owned by Taft Broadcasting Company at that time. So I have a very good financial background, which a lot of people may know but don't know. So I wanted to just share that with you. I wanted to give you a little history of the property. We closed on the first parcel of ground in 2005. I believe that was about 103 acres. We closed on the second parcel in 2007. That was the balance, was about 41 plus acres. We attempted to develop that property ever since we actually purchased it. We approached builders, a lot of the local builders, the large ones, as well as some medium-sized builders, and the answer was always the same. It was too far out. We have too many other places we can buy lots. Too many other things we can do. Then, as you all recall, and we remember very well, the downturn of 2008, 9, 10, 11, bad times. And obviously there was no builders available at that point in time. We did get a proposal and we started conversations with the village of Batavia in 2013 about being annexed. So Tim Burgoyne and I discussed that internally, and the village was willing to pay with an assessment bond the development of the first phase, which includes 64 lots. There's a lot of upfront cost in this development to bring water from Bower, the lift station. So there's some disproportionate cost in the upfront. So the village, in our meetings with the village in 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, we worked through all the details of a development agreement in which they would pay with an assessment bond for that infrastructure that we desperately needed to get the development going, as well as issue a CRA, which is very advantageous for the market that we're going for. Because of those two things, the development became feasible. This was the first time since we owned it in 2005 that it actually became feasible. It was still 6 more years from 2013 that we were able to sign a purchase and sale agreement with Ryan Homes to purchase lots at Streamside. And Ryan Homes is actually a name from NVR, one of the largest home builders in the country, maybe number 3. I mean, very large. It's been mentioned before that the existing TIF requires the county to build a 4,000-foot frontage road, which everybody agrees is not needed or fits the present transportation plan. As Dennis Nichols has mentioned, the village of Batavia is willing to assume the cost for the Bower Road and Harold Road improvements. We were advised by our attorneys, and the village attorneys advised the village that our agreements with the village would allow us to move ahead without any cloud on title. Caused by the existing TIF. So we have broken ground in good faith based on those opinions. And the fact that the county would not be and even that some opinion that it would not, that TIF would not be an issue. So some of the other things on the feasibility and what's in it for the county, I calculated about $7,500 to $8,000 per lot for building fees, sewer and water capacity fees, plus the ongoing sewer and water operational cost of every homeowner. From Howe Home's standpoint, if the TIF is not rescinded, I have no other choice but to stop the site work immediately. I will have potential lawsuits with Ryan Homes, who we have a contract with, and potentially with our site development contractor. So it will also put Howe Homes in financial jeopardy, and I guess in my opinion, there's no reason for any of us to go through all of those issues. And I would ask today that the board would vote to rescind the TIF pursuant to the resolution submitted so that we can continue the development of Streamside after waiting 15 years for the right opportunity. And really for us, time is of the essence. And I think I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have of me.
Board, any questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Stillman. Any further presentations today, Tom?
Yes, sir.
With that, we'll move in our agenda to item number D. Item D is public participation. If there's anyone here today that would like to participate from the public, let me read here a second. During this time, the board does not answer questions nor engage in debate. The commissioners are not expected to comment on matters brought to the board at this time. Each speaker will speak once, be recognized by the board president before speaking. In accordance with the board's rules of procedure, your comments are limited to 5 minutes. Rex, you have the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Rex Parsons. I serve as administrator for Batavia Township. I'm here to talk a little bit about the presentation you just heard. And on behalf of Batavia Township trustees, I'm asking that the county to leave the TIF in place on Streamside Residential Incentive District. This request to remove the RID greatly affects Batavia Township because in 2005, Batavia Township was moving forward with getting our own TIFs. We were speaking with all the developers that the county ended up speaking with. We had a mutual agreement at that time with the Board of County Commissioners that we would stop our efforts in lieu of the county moving forward with the county RIDs. Seeing overall that the need for road improvements in and of the Eastgate area outside of Batavia Township were a key component to the growth in Clermont County and Batavia Township. As Mr. Silverman did mention, that the comments are always made that it's too far out. We know there needs to be improvements made. So when we entered an agreement in 2005, the county agreed to make the township whole for any loss of tax revenues because of the county TIF. Once this agreement was reached, Batavia Township agreed to abandon the creation of TIF on those same properties. County TIF program also included other developments in Batavia Township, not just Streamside. And Judy, I know you were involved in that. but I know this is a new board since then. The county has been collecting service payments in lieu of taxes on those other developments, including Lexington Run, and has been distributing those funds to Batavia Township under that agreement. The township has used those payments for approved projects within the township, including the township park. And we rely on those payments and those funds to services for our residents. Even though a village CRA subordinates any county or township TIF service payments, which would otherwise be collected for the duration of the CRA, it is possible for the county TIF to generate funds for the county and the township. It depends on the terms of the tax abatement granted to the developer by the village. But for instance, a 50% abatement would leave TIF service payments to the county and township for the remaining 50% of the valuation. Even 100% abatement may generate TIF service payments, depending on the base value of the land, before improvements and any increase in undeveloped land value as time goes on. According to the CRA language, only the improvement values are abated. Just so everyone knows, Batavia Township also created a 75% TIF on the surrounding property in 2013, which has not yet commenced. So now it appears that the development will be TIF'd by either the county or the village. The question is, who gets the service payments? The trustees urge the board to leave your TIF in place for the benefit of the county and the township, and to receive all in-service payments from the rest of the development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. Anyone else that'd like to participate in this meeting from the public? Dennis Nichols, your comments are limited to 5 minutes.
The township, knowing full well what is proceeding here, has not approached the village, asked for a make-good payment, or made any other request of the village with regard to this TIF. I take those remarks by Mr. Parsons to be not in good faith.
Thank you. Anyone else that'd like to participate during public? Mr. Hicks? The podium is yours. In accordance with the board's rules and procedures, your comments are limited to 5 minutes.
This is an exciting meeting. So, I am Christopher Hicks at 444 Woodwick Court, Cincinnati, Ohio. Item 17 on your agenda is labeled as execution of a settlement agreement with Christopher Hicks regarding a federal First Amendment case. 2 years ago, on July 26, 2017, I was the only citizen in the room when ex-Commissioner David Ubel asked if anyone wanted to speak at public participation. I raised my hand and was told, quote, "We decided you cannot say what you're going to say," end quote. When I asked you, Mr. Painter, and you, Mr. Humphrey, if you agreed with Mr. Ubel, he ordered me removed from the room and you sat on your hands. My wife likes to say apologies are free, but rather than apologize, we watched events play out driven by ego and hubris. The next day, on July 27th, an unapologetic Ubel emailed CVB leaders with a request to get himself appointed to the board while concealing his involvement in his own appointment. Mr. Ubel, then Republican Party leader, called, then canceled, a special meeting of the Republican Party Executive Committee to seek my removal from the party. Mr. Ubel obtained from a friendly magistrate a temporary civil protection order against me to keep me out of government and Republican Party meetings. Mr. Ubel went to the press labeling me as a textbook psychotic. And before Mr. Ubel dropped the civil protection order, he gave a speech at a Republican Party meeting announcing he realized that I have First Amendment rights, but reminding me that he had Second Amendment rights. Along the way to today, you ignored repeated settlement offers, insisting you were in the right, while offering up in depositions that you could not interpret your own rules for public participation. I have 2 suits against the county. This one and an open meetings violation case. In your April 9th, 2018 meeting, Mr. Painter moved to publicly reject a settlement offer I had made to settle both cases for under $67,000 with no admission of responsibility on the part of the county. What you are considering today as item 17 on your agenda. Cost taxpayers $146,500 for one case and has this admission, quote, "The board admits that while he was not being disruptive, Hicks' First Amendment right to freedom of speech was violated when he was not given permission to speak during public participation and was removed from the board session meeting on July 26, 2017, end quote. I think that dollar amount, the dollar amount that you are considering taking responsibility should have been transparently included on your agenda as part of item 17. Commissioners, the fact we are here, having taken 2 years for you to consider admitting a basic constitutional wrong is disheartening. The Constitution cannot be clearer when it assures the right of the people to petition the government for a redress of grievances. You took that right from me. I am concerned that the lessons are not sinking in. In the last year alone, we have seen so much exposed, such as the illegal hiring of Amy Jo DeClaire, the patronage hiring of Commissioner Political Aides, that for 15 years, employees of the engineer feared reprisal if they spoke up, inaction when we had no statutory auditor for 10 days, and you giving Mr. Ubel 2 hearings on a plot to get $1.8 million in public funds to make his ranch a private preserve for his use. You are even currently hiring an aide to the clerk. She earns more than you, Mr. Painter, is a clerk, but can't effectively use a computer, so needs a personal aide to do so. It is nuts, but you are paralyzed to act since she is connected with the political party. Whatever happens today, I will be as vigilant as ever. But no one yearns more for true positive change in this county than me. Clean, honest, open, and transparent government is the right thing to do. It is best for the people. If you won't do it out of ethics or out of character, please do it to just shut me up. If you live or work in Clermont County, do not be afraid to speak up and to report wrongdoing. You can contact me if you need help. It's time for real change and better government in our county. Thank you. One last thing. Ms. Corcoran, in your campaign, you called for a transparent CVB. You have done absolutely nothing to make that happen. I would like to at some point know why. Thank you all for the chance to participate in this meeting at public participation time. You know how important I consider it to be, Commissioner Painter.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Is there anyone else that would like to participate in the public? Yes, sir. Your comments are limited to 5 minutes. Please state your name and your address.
Name is Dick Spoor with Keating, Muthing, and Clecamp. It's 105 East 4th Street in Cincinnati. I just want to make a quick comment to the comments that we heard from the Batavia Township Administrator. I think the basic premise of his statement was there is an existing agreement, general agreement with the county that all TIF proceeds from all of these TIFs would go to the township for general township use. I'm not familiar with that agreement, but I am familiar with the specific development agreement between Hal Homes and the county, and it talks about the use of the TIF money for the 4,000-foot road. So there is a focal point for that TIF money. It's not to be used for general purposes throughout the county or in the township. It does have a focal point. I just wanted to kind of keep that in front.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that'd like to participate from the public? Hearing none, I will close the public participation portion of the meeting, and I would request that we take a 10-minute recess.
I'll second.
You have the privilege of doing that as a chair.
Yes,
If you want to make a motion, I'll second it.
I'll make that motion.
It's been moved.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey.
Aye.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. We stand in recess. I'd like to call this meeting from recess back into order, and we would move on with item number E on the agenda. the consent agenda. Board, a consent agenda has been prepared for the meeting today. I know that you've had it previous to the meeting for review and comment. Are there any issues that or resolutions you would like to pull off the consent agenda and have further conversation about them here at the board before we consider the consent agenda?
No, I'm fine.
Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as prepared.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
It's been moved and received a second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey.
Aye.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Then we will move to the consent agenda. Non-consent. Starts on page 6. Item number 10, Board of County Commissioners, Resolution number 108-19 for the payment of bills. Recommendation, the Board of County Commissioners adopt Resolution 108-19, resolving to approve payment to vendors in the amount of $1,673,798.38, as set forth in the BCC approval invoice report for checks dated July 17th through 2019, BCC directed prepaid invoice reports, procurement card transaction reports presented by the county auditor on 7/15/2019, and further authorizing the county auditor to issue warrants for the same pursuant to Section 319.16 of the Ohio Revised Code. Do I have a motion for approval of item number 10 as read?
Moved.
I'll second the motion.
Been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Humphrey.
Aye.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Item number 11.
Good morning, Still.
Hi, Wade.
Agenda item number 11 is a recommendation from myself, Wade Grabowski, Director of the Clermont County Facilities Management Department, with the concurrence of Mr. Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to approve the request to advertise for bids for the Clermont County Sheriff's Office Safety and Training Facility, pursuant to the plans and specifications therefore, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation for 3 consecutive weeks, commencing on Thursday, 7/25/2019, scheduling a non-mandatory pre-bid conference at 9 a.m. local time Thursday, 8/1/2019 at the Clermont County Sheriff's Office, which is located at 4470 State Route 222 in Batavia, with bids to be received until 2 p.m. local time on Thursday, 8/15/2019 in the office of the Board of County Commissioners, 101 East Main, Batavia, Ohio, where they will be publicly opened and read aloud shortly thereafter. This notice will also, of course, be posted on the Clermont County's website, www.clermontcountyohio.gov.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 11. Do I have a motion for approval of consideration?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey.
Aye.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Thanks, Wade. Item number 12.
Item 12 is the county's annual contribution to the OKI Regional Council of Governments, and that is in the amount of $67,804, effective 7/1/19 through 6/30/2020.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 12 for OKI participation in Regional Council of Governments. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Humphrey.
Aye.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
I'll abstain. Item number 13.
13 is a recommendation to designate the Human Resources Administrator as the Equal Employment Opportunity Officer for the county, pursuant to and in compliance with Section 1.03B of the Clermont County Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual, entitled Fair Employment Practices, Employee Complaints of Discrimination, and our Human Resources Administrator is Sandy Tahat. So congratulations, Sandy.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 13. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion, and congratulations.
Second?
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Item number 14.
Item 14 is a request to increase the general fund appropriation for 2019 in the amount of $5,000 for the TB clinic the county contracts with public health, and they need full $45,000 this year. And originally, it only requested 40. So,
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 14. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes. Item number 15.
Commissioners, on June 19th, 2019, there was a item for replacement of the EMA 911 Communication Center roof. The board had additional questions, so item 15 would be consideration of removing that item from the table for further consideration.
You've heard the reading of item number 15. Do I have a motion to bring that item off the table back into general session?
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and received a second. Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes, item number 15 is back here. And
So Commissioners, I believe that there was a request for Mr. Grabowski, the Facilities Management Director, to obtain some additional information about the roofway. Would you like to let the board know exactly what you were able to find out?
No problem at all. The question at hand was also included warranty issues regarding the project itself, and on the product, we have since requested and have received a certified copy of a letter from Garland Roofing, who is the actual contract holder, where they will be providing the inspection services to make sure that the warranty isn't in place. So they will hold the warranty for the next 25 to 30 years.
Board have any additional questions regarding this project?
we don't? And I understand that it's going to be handled in item number 16. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wade, if you want to, you have item 16 there in front of you. Thank you.
Very much. Agenda item number 16 is a recommendation for myself, Wade Grabowski, Director of the Clermont County Facilities Management Department, with the concurrence of Mr. Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute a contract for minor public improvement projects by and between the Board of Commissioners of Clermont County, Ohio, and Garland, DBS, and, out of Cleveland, Ohio, for the EMA 911 Communication Center Roof Replacement Project in concert with their proposal, number 25OH170946, which is being provided according to the pricing established under the Master Intergovernmental Cooperative Purchasing Agreement with Cobb County, Georgia, and U.S. Communities, and as more fully described in the scope of services identified as Exhibit A, attached thereto and made a part thereof, in an amount not to exceed $173,283, with said services to be completed within 120 days of the contractor's receipt of a signed contract and notice to proceed from the Clermont County Facilities Management Department, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions set forth therein. This is also contingent upon the release of the required purchase order in concert with requisition number 3703-00, dated 5/30/2019.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 16. Do I have a motion for?
Make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion?
Roll call, Judy. Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 17. Board, I'm asking that item number 17 be tabled at this meeting to a point to be determined as a result of a violation of a confidentiality agreement this morning here in this boardroom, where the actual details of the settlement have already been made public. Do I have a motion to table?
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes. Tom, do we have some add-ons?
We do, sir. We have 3 add-ons. The first is a determination to make improvements relative to the State Route 28 water main replacement project. The second is a determination to make improvements relative to the State Route 48 and State Route 28 water main replacement project. And the third is a request to re-advertise for bids for the Riverside Park project in Milford. So I'm asking the board to consider adding those to the agenda.
Board, you've heard the 3 additions that need to be added to the agenda today. Do I have a motion to add these 3 to our agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes. We'll take the first one here for Clermont County Water Resources Department. Good morning, Lyle.
Good morning, I'm Lyle Bloom, Director with the Clermont County Water Resources Department. And the first one is a recommendation to adopt resolution number 109-19, resolving to determine to make improvements relative to the construction, operation, and maintenance of the State Route 28 water main replacement project. This is from Buckwheat, Branch Hill, Guinea, located in Miami Township, and designated this project number 6401-60153 in conformance with the detailed plan, specifications, and estimates of cost and financing, all of which will be paid from one or more of any combination of the Waterworks Replacement and Improvement Fund, Waterworks Capital Improvement Fund, any portion of any federal or state grant or loan should such become available, and or by the issuance of notes or bonds pursuant to section 133.08 of the Ohio Revised Code, and payable from revenues derived from water rates and charges levied for the operation of the Clermont County Waterworks system. Subsequently thereto, to approve the request to advertise for bids for the project pursuant to the plans and specifications, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation on Thursday, July 25th, 2019. Schedule a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting on Thursday, August 8th, 2019 at 9 a.m. with bids to be received until 2:00 p.m. local time on Thursday, August 15th, 2019. Here in the Office of the Board of County Commissioners, where it will be publicly opened and read aloud shortly thereafter, and this notice will also be posted on the county's website. This project involves replacing two existing water mains. We have an existing 10-inch and 12-inch water main that's located under State Route 28 between Buckwheat and Branch Hill, Guinea. The 10-inch was installed in 1959, and the 12-inch was installed in 1952. We're going to replace both of them with a single 16-inch water main. It's about 1,900 feet. When we have main breaks there, primarily on the 10-inch, it's all under the pavement. The pavement's really thick. It heaves a lot of the road up, so the repairs are very expensive there. The engineer's estimate for the construction is $802,645.
So there's an existing 10-inch and a
12-inch.
12-inch.
Board, you've heard the reading of the add-on for the maintenance of the State Route 28 water main replacement project at Buckwheat and Branch Hill, Guinea Road. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
It's been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Lyle, how will these be installed? You gonna cut pavement, or are you gonna?
Yeah, it's all open cut.
Okay, all open cut. Any further?
None.
Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran?
Yes.
Humphrey?
Aye.
Dana?
Yes. Thank you, Lyle.
All right. So
And
next-
the second one is Water Resources Department Resolution Number 110-19. Lyle?
That is resolving to determine to make improvements relative to the construction, operation, and maintenance of the State Route 48 and State Route 28 water main replacement project located in Goshen Township. And this is designated as project number 6401-60159 in conformance with the detailed plan, specifications, and estimates of cost and financing, all of which will be paid from one or more of any combination of the Waterworks Replacement and Improvement Fund, Waterworks Capital Improvement Fund, Ohio Public Works Commission grant, any portion of any federal or state grant or loan should such become available, and or by the issuance of notes or bonds pursuant to section 133.08 of the Ohio Revised Code, and payable from revenues derived from water rates and charges levied for the operation of the Clermont County Waterworks system, and to approve the request to advertise for bids for the project pursuant to the plans and specifications, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation on Thursday, July 25th, 2019, schedule a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting on Thursday, August 8th, 2019 at 8:30 a.m. with bids to be received until 2:00 p.m. local time on Thursday, August 15th, 2019. Here in the Office of the Board of County Commissioners, they will be publicly open and read aloud shortly thereafter, and this notice will also be posted on the county's website. This involves installing new 8-inch, 12-inch, and 16-inch water main. It's about 9,600 feet of new main that we're going to install that will replace 6-inch and 8-inch water main that was installed in 1959. Again, we have a lot of water main breaks in this area, and this will put the increased capacity will help move water further to the north with their distribution system. The engineer's estimate on this project is $1,696,320.
Board, you've heard the reading of the motion for Clermont County Water Resources Resolution Number 110-19 to make improvements from Project 6401-60159. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Yes.
Hayner?
Yes. And the third one is the Department of Community and Economic Development.
Good morning.
Hi, Sherry.
Sherry Star, Department of Community and Economic Development. I have a recommendation of Andy Kudfed, Director, Department of Community and Economic Development, with the concurrence of Suki Sheets, Assistant County Administrator, to approve the request to advertise for bids for project number 2016-04 relative to the City of Milford Riverside Park Improvement Projects in concert with the Clermont County Community Development Block Grant Program for fiscal year 2016 pursuant to the plans and specifications therefore, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation on July 25th, 2019. Bids will be received until 2 p.m. local time on Thursday, August 15th, 2019, in the office of the Board of County Commissioners, located at 101 East Main Street, Batavia, where they will be publicly open and read aloud shortly thereafter. This notice will also be posted on the Clermont County's website.
Board, you've heard the reading of the additional add-on for the Department of Community and Economic Development request to advertise for bids for project number 2016-04 relative to the City of Milford Riverside Park improvements. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Hayner?
Yes. Thanks, Sherry. Any other add-ons?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Okay. Then I would move to item number H, executive session. I'm requesting an executive session pursuant to section 121.22, G1, G3, G4, and G6 of the Ohio Revised Code to first consider the employment and compensation of one or more public employees. Second, to confer with the prosecuting attorney regarding pending or imminent litigation. 3, to prepare for or conduct or review negotiations for bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. And 4th, discuss details relative to the security arrangements and emergency response protocols for a public body or a public office respectively. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and received a second. Roll call, Judy.
Aye.
Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Hayner?
Yes, we are proceeding into executive session. We will return and we will conduct further business. Thank you. We are back from executive session. No decisions were made. And I would like to move that we take another recess in the meeting. So I would move that we move the meeting from back into regular session out to recess. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded.
Time
Oh.
that we're coming
Yeah.
back?
Time, we need a clerk.
Yeah, clerk.
Do we have a timer coming back?
12:55, and then
Do we-
recessed at 12:56. When
but we
would you
need
like
a
to
clerk.
come back? I can take call.
Okay?
Well, can I?
We need a clerk.
Yeah,
Probably need a clerk.
have Judy.
Otherwise, we gotta appoint me pro tem.
Commissioner Painter,
Yeah.
can I speak with you just a moment?
Are we rescheduling the 2? Debbie, are we rescheduling 2 o'clock?
In the timeout chair.
Now we need the president.
Yeah, that's okay. He'll be back.
All right,
Who said what, guys?
we're not there. We're coming back in. He has to come back in.
We came back in and he asked for a motion to go into recess.
But we're waiting.
And we waited for you,
Oh, thanks.
I believe. No one made a motion to go into recess.
You did.
Yeah,
Did I?
you made the motion.
Oh.
Then we stopped.
And then we stopped.
Correct.
No action taken.
Judy, I brought the meeting out of executive session and into regular session and then called to recess the meeting. It went to recess at 12:56. We'd like to come back at 2 o'clock.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
you're making it now.
Yep.
You did?
I'll second that motion.
Been moved and second. Roll call.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes, we stand in recess.
2 o'clock.
Return at 2. We are back from recess, and I'd like to call this meeting from recess back into open session. Tom, do we have any further additions to the agenda?
Yes, sir, we do. First, we have a correction on item 12. Mr.
Okay.
Zito.
Item 12 was the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments annual agreement, and we need a motion to rescind that particular.
I'll make a motion to rescind item number 12. It's for the Board of Clermont County Commissioners Agreement with Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana Regional Council of Governments for comprehensive regional planning services for the County of Clermont.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Excuse me. Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
We have rescinded item 12.
Right. And in lieu, we are going to execute or authorize the execution of the OKI Regional Council Agreement for the period 7/1/2019 through 6/30/2020 at the rates indicated in item 12, but we are going to authorize Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute the agreement for and on behalf of the county.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Been moved and seconded. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Are you abstaining?
Commissioner Painter, we have two add-ons for the board's consideration.
Okay.
One is the Department of Job and Family Services bargaining agreement, and the second item is legal representation.
Board, you've heard that we have two additional add-ons, a bargaining agreement add-on and a legal representation add-on. Do I have a motion to add these two items to the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes. Tom, the two items are on the agenda.
First item is the bargaining agreement. Ms. DeHaat.
Afternoon.
Hi, with Human Resources, and this is a recommendation of Tim Dick, Interim Director with the Department of Job and Family Services, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute the collective bargaining agreement by and between the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, referred to as AFSCME, Ohio Council 8, Local 3536, who represent the bargaining unit employees of Job and Family Services. The contract is for the period of January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2021, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions specified therein, and further to authorize the Department of Job and Family Services to prepare and process the munis personnel actions for eligible bargaining employees in concert therewith, to adjust rates of pay in compliance with Article 29, wages, effective December 17th, 2018. As stated, this is a 3-year contract. There were a few changes made from the prior collective bargaining agreement. It clarifies when the employer is permitted to cease payroll deduction for union dues. It extends a county paid election day program for the union employees under the terms and conditions of the county policy. There is also a change in union benefits. The union has previously authorized, or required, I should say, all employees to take an AFSCME care plan. And starting with the next benefit enrollment year, which would be January 1st of 20, employees will be given the option to waive that, elect the county offered benefits, or take the AFSCME care plan. And lastly is the wage article. This contract will be the first full contract where any wage adjustments are 100% based on merit. And in the top performing level, there would be a 3% merit for the top.
Board, you've heard the reading of the add-on for collective bargaining. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll Second that motion.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Sandy, I understand that this brings us into compliance and consistency with the other bargaining agreements that we have. Is that
Correct.
fair? Okay. Any further? Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the second item will be the legal representation, Ms. Castillo.
We have for consideration before the Board of County Commissioners the appointment of outside legal counsel in compliance with the requirements of Revised Code 2744.1 and as it relates to the claims set forth in the litigation identified as Jared Schwartz versus the Clermont County Sheriff's Office et al. It's the recommendation of G. Ernie Ramos Jr., Assistant Prosecuting Attorney, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eichel, County Administrator, to appoint outside legal counsel in compliance with Revised Code 2744.07A1, which states a political subdivision shall provide for the defense of an employee in any state or federal court in any civil action or proceeding which contains an allegation for damages, for injury, death, or loss to person or property caused by an act of or omission of the employee in connection with a governmental or proprietary function. Potential conflicts of interest exist such that representation is necessary for certain individuals identified as defendants in their individual capacities in and as it relates to the matter of Jared Schwartz versus Clermont County Sheriff's Department et al., filed in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Ohio, Western Division, under case number 1-19-CV-00453. Said representation shall be as follows. The law firm of Schroeder, Mondrell, Barbary, and Powers, located at 5300 Socialville Foster Road, Suite 200, Mason, Ohio 45040, to represent Jeffrey Gaffney. The hourly rate, partner's time, shall be billed at a rate of $175 per hour. Associate attorney shall be billed at a rate of $160 per hour. And legal assistance paralegal shall be billed at a rate of $90 per hour. Second individual to be represented is Michael Ashley, with the firm of Montgomery Johnson LLP, 600 Vine Street, Suite 2650, Cincinnati, Ohio 45202. Their attorney's time shall be billed at the rate of $200 per hour, and paralegal law clerk time shall be billed at $85 per hour.
Board, you've heard the reading of the add-on for legal services. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes. Board, previously, item number 17 was tabled, and I would like to make a motion to bring item 17 off the table and back into general session.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Item number 17, Board of Clermont County execution of a settlement agreement with Christopher Hicks as it relates to United States District Court number 117 CV00677. It's a recommendation of G. Ernie Ramos Jr., Chief Assistant Prosecuting Attorney, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eichel, County Administrator, to authorize David Painter, the President of the Board, to execute the settlement agreement for the provisions of full settlement and release of all claims associated with the matter of Christopher Hicks versus Clermont County Board of Commissioners, United States District Court, Southern District of Ohio, Western Division, case number 117 CV00677, the terms of which are set forth in detail in a settlement agreement. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion. Sorry.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further conversation or discussion?
No.
None? Board, just to bring you up to date real quick, this agreement will provide an admission that while not being disruptive, Mr. Hicks' First Amendment right to freedom of speech was violated when he wasn't given permission to speak on July 26. We're agreeing that this board will be enjoined from removing persons from a board session on the grounds that the person made an utterance, a gesture, or display which outrages the sensibility of the board. The board further agrees to be enjoined from authorizing the board president to determine a speaker's remarks outrage the sensibilities of the board at a board session meeting. And the board agrees to pay $145,000 as and for compensation to Mr. Hicks and for Mr. Hicks' attorneys incurred in relation to all legal representation in this federal action. The board will pay settlement in one check made payable jointly to God Be Law, LLC, and Christopher Hicks for $145,000. Any further conversation or discussion?
None.
Roll call, Judy?
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes. Do we have any other business to come before the board?
Do you have an add-on related to that settlement agreement, sir?
Yes, I do. Go ahead, Suki.
You've got a
Well, first of all, we've got to add it on to the board. Could you give me a
It's
summarization?
a supplemental appropriation.
Okay. We have a supplemental appropriation that goes with this settlement agreement.
Exactly.
Do I have a motion to add it to the agenda?
So moved.
It's
I'll
been
second.
moved and second. Further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes. Suki, floor is yours.
We have one supplemental appropriation as a result of the execution of the settlement. This will increase the insurance health judgment code, other expenses for $146,500.
Okay. You've heard the reading of the add-on. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes. Anything further?
Yes, sir.
We're there. We're there. Good
You
thing,
want-
good thing.
You want to finish the agenda that deals with items, let's see,
Aye and J.
I and J, which
We
I
will.
have written over.
Absolutely. Item I on the agenda is county staff and elected official discussions. Any county staff or elected officials here that would like to have a discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll move on to item number J. Member comments? Board members, I'd like to make a comment. We've settled a lawsuit today with Christopher Hicks, and I would just like to read an immediate release for public release. Batavia, Ohio, the Clermont County Commissioners have agreed to a settlement in a case filed in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Ohio. Captioned Christopher Hicks versus Clermont County Board of Commissioners. The Ohio case number is 117 CV00677. It's a federal action. Mr. Christopher Hicks sued the county and others claiming that we did 7 things wrong. 5 of the claims were dismissed, 3 by the judge and 2 by Mr. Hicks himself. Mr. Hicks was requesting money to pay his attorney fees and money for himself. The 2 remaining claims related to July 26, 2017 Commissioners meeting and the rules of procedure for Commissioner sessions. Prior to July 26, 2017 Commissioners meeting, Mr. Hicks had spoken on 2 other Commissioner meetings. The morning of July 26, 2017, before the Commissioners meeting, Mr. Hicks sent an email to the Commissioners advising that he wanted to speak about what he wanted to speak at the meeting. At the Commissioners meeting, the Board President, David Ubel, under the belief that Mr. Hicks wanted to speak about things that he'd spoken about previously and things that were not germane to Clermont County business, did not permit Mr. Hicks to speak. When Mr. Hicks was asked to be seated, he refused and was removed from the meeting. The claim related to Commissioners' Rules of Procedure for session was specific to the language in the rules that contained the language used in Ohio law relating to disturbing a lawful meeting. The settlement agreement authorized by this Board of Clermont County Commissioners today states that the Clermont County Board of Commissioners admit, while not being disruptive, Mr. Hicks' First Amendment right to freedom of speech was violated when he was not given permission to speak during public participation and was removed from the board session on July 26, 2017. Board of Commissioners will be enjoined from removing persons from a board session meeting on the grounds that a person made an utterance, gesture, or a display that outrages the sensibilities of the board, and from authorizing the board president to determine whether a speaker's remarks outrage the sensibilities of the board at a session meeting. Those restrictions, as previously mentioned, are of no consequence in that relevant language has been previously removed from the board's rules of conduct and participation. In addition, his attorneys and Mr. Hicks will receive $145,000 in attorney fees and compensatory damages and $1,500 for court costs and Mr. Hicks's expenses in this federal action. I just wanted to say that it's very unfortunate In today's world that we can't talk out our differences, lawsuits have become the medium whereby discussions are held and great wealth is obtained from the pockets of the taxpayers. The county has been advised that Judge Timothy S. Black, United States District Court of Southern District of Ohio, will file a contingency dismissal of the lawsuit as a result of the settlement. Board, is there anything else to come before this meeting?
Nothing else.
Then I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and second. Roll call, Judy.
John Bree,
Aye.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Randall.
Yes, we stand in adjournment.